reflex.
Can I tell you, I don't know why, I don't know if this is a cultural thing to New York, like barbershops. Both of my barbers there, without telling me, without giving me a warning, they would just toss a warm white, like moist towel over my head so everything just went completely dark. And it terrified me the first time. But I was like,
I think that's a barbershop thing.
Have we talked about like BDSM and kink culture?
Did you sign a contract at the beginning?
Did you announce that you were a bottom? Or anyway,
no, the warm wet towels thing is like
don't you think you would give a heads up? Hey, I'm going to toss a towel on your head.
I would.
And they would just...
But
if you give a heads up, you're going to duck out of the way and then the towel will hit the floor.
And you can't use it.
But I've never had that anywhere else. It was just like both of the...
Sport clips or whatever. Yeah. The one that's like, we only cut hair for men. And like, they're always like, with a complimentary warm towel on your face.
Do they just toss it without...
I'm not allowed to go. In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are... the Anidorks.
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Go!
Chapter 17. The gang morphs into bats to reach Prince Galuit. This way they can fly low to the ground even in the dark, using echolocation to dodge the rough terrain. Flying any higher might activate the turrets of the Andalite's automatic defensive grid. They soar across the Leeran continent. Axe is surprised to find himself homesick for Earth, longing to feast on cinnamon rolls in his human morph. What was wrong with him? Captain Samelin had sold out the Andalites to the Yeerks. Was Axe no different, except that he was selling out to the humans?
It's kind of incredible that Captain Samelin was able to convince Axe without a cinnamon roll.
Yeah, I know. This chapter has "To the Batmorph, Robin" as a Marco line, which is really a legendarily good line.
Classic.
I really want that to just I love it so much.
When they concoct the plan to get into the Batmorphs, that's when like Jake is like, "All right, let's do it," and he's like, "Yes, sir, Prince Jake." And then Jake says, "Don't call me Prince Jake." Mm-hmm. And that's when the slow smile hits.
Yeah.
Because it says, he said very sternly, "Don't call me Prince Jake." And then he smiled.
And
there was actually a whole half page of white space between those, like of just empty page.
Yeah. Also, Axe gives us a comment on nudity and the fact that he's like, clothing.
I hate this.
You hate it? I love it. That he gives us a comment that it's mostly used because humans believe much of their body to be unacceptable. And
what I hate about it is where he goes next.
Oh, what does he say next? They're right, of course, but they cover all the wrong parts. There's nothing uglier than the human nose. Okay, I forgot about that part. That's fair.
He
That's
comes
not fair.
after our noses, which are cute as buttons. Damn it.
Yeah, he's got weird little slits on his face, so I get that the nose would look a little weird, but like they really give us a focal point. And you know, who among us has never succumbed to the temptation to boop the snoot?
Yeah.
Yes, you gotta boop the snoot.
Yeah.
Eddie, take it away. Boop the snoot for me. Can you boop my snoot, Eddie?
Yeah.
In fact, I have a story in which we were children and you booped
you're a
my
very
snoot.
special boy.
You're a very special boy. We were playing The Getaway, PS2 game, and I was playing it. I was probably being crazy because I was at that age.
Funny.
And I said something, and Eddie just turned and said, "You're a very special boy," and booped me right on the snoot.
And you never forgot it.
That's
unbelievable. It was so real.
You must have seen that somewhere.
I was just like,
You didn't know what to do. No one had touched your face before. I get very alarmed when people casually touch my face. I'm like, why would you assume you're allowed to do that?
I actually could easily imagine Chris going, why would you feel comfortable touching my face? Finger in the air.
There were moments during my haircut earlier where I was like, they're allowed to touch your head.
Yup.
Like, I was like, remember, they're allowed to touch your head.
You're paying them to do this, actually.
Because they were like, at the end, they were like describing things I could do, and they were like holding it up and doing all this stuff. And
they always do that.
Like,
and they put their hands all up through your hair and all over your head. And you're like,
it's great because they're illustrating. It's great. No, it's actually great. It's just I have to like lower my Andalite reflexes.
Yeah.
So back to this. I actually have one last point that I want to hit in this chapter because there's actually not a ton here other than like a bit of self-reflection that we could expect and all this fun stuff. The one thing I'll say is that Axe says something pretty remarkable about T.O. Harlan. Harlan? Is that what we're calling him? Harlan?
I went with Harlan. I don't know why.
Harlan. T.O. Harlan. He found himself reflecting on him as a person because, like, he recognized that at first he had felt ease with the captain, which is what Eddie was saying. Like, he had felt ease with the captain and not Harlan because Harlan sort of, like, pushed what Axe now is able to see as prejudices and Andalite arrogance.
Yeah.
And now Axe can see that from his time on Earth and his time away and working with other people. It's a huge growth point. But he says something interesting, which is that, like, at the end of the day, he was a true Andalite. And I think what he's saying is that he fulfilled his duty in battle.
He died a hero, he says, right after that.
I think you can't really separate the two. Like, it's kind of like you don't get one without the other. He's kind of saying, like, yeah, this is a more sober look at what
and this is the problem
can be.
Is that Axe at the end of the day will always be a jock. And I want to know about the fail-son Andalites. I want to know about the basement Andalite. Like, I want to know about those who could not care less about
Well, Elfangor's parents built rockets, apparently, and then both their sons wound up being warriors.
You can't have a basement and a rocket. The point...
What did they call them? Swoops? They lived in scoops. They lived in scoops.
Yeah, you could build a basement, just dig a hole. So
a basement's just a fancy hole. No, I think it's interesting to watch Axe come to this realization. You're totally right. I think when we started these books, we didn't expect to be dealing with so many jocks. We expected more Marcos than we were Jakes, but here we are in a Jake and Axe's world. Yeah. I don't know. Sound off in the comments about the jock culture of Animorphs. Tell me how wrong I am. Tell me how wrong I am.
All the
on our
Andalites.
Patreon Discord.
Oh, I was going to say, every Andalite except the friend in Andalite Chronicles has been presented to us as a jock. Like the one who got turned into a taxon. What was his name? Doesn't matter. Arbron. He's like the only non-jock Andalite we've ever met.
Yeah, let's do it. Shall we go into it?
Chapter 18.
Chapter 18? Let's go.
Chapter 18. Eventually, the Animorphs stumble on combat. 20 Hork-Bajir overtaking 3 poor little Andalites and 2 Leerans. Behind the Hork-Bajir, a line of taxons follow, eager to feast on the wounded. Jake had ordered everyone to stay out of battle as they simply needed to reach Galui? Is that how we're saying that? I'm not remembering.
I think we weren't sure. Galway.
Yeah, Galway.
We didn't land solidly anywhere. Galway.
Send us audio clips of how to pronounce it if you dislike our pronunciation. You can do that in the Discord, I'm sure.
But even he can't watch these allies get picked off. That's Jake. Jake can't watch his allies get picked off. They intervene, but it's no use. The Andalites and Leerans are massacred. So the Animorphs retreat. As they take off once more, Tobias suddenly disappears. He wasn't shot out of the sky or even fried by a Drakenbeam. He was just there one moment and then gone. The Animorphs don't have time to process his vanishing, though. At that same time, a dozen or more Andalite ships take to the sky in the distance, retreating. The Andalites have seemingly lost Lyra. I wanted to make a joke about how Tobias disappeared just like he did from books 4 through 12 of the series.
That wasn't his choice, though.
No, it wasn't.
He was
his
like,
choice.
"Put me in, guys."
Of course, he's the first one to go. You know what I mean? Well, he wouldn't be able to swim down under as easily, I guess.
It was scary when he popped away, though. Like,
Yeah.
It was like, did he just die
Did
in
he
the
get hit?
battle? Is that what just
Yeah.
happened? Yeah. And they were like, I don't think he got shot. And it's like, dude, you don't know.
Yeah, Axe is like certain he didn't see him, but I'm like, how do you know?
How do you
like,
know?
Yeah.
There's a great line in here. So they get knocked down as the bats and they get sort of trampled. And Axe says, a huge clawed foot landed inches from me. Hork-Bajir ran over me, stampeding in a forward rush, ignoring the tiny winged creature that was me. And that like resonated so much with child me. And like there's a speech in an episode of The Newsroom where someone describes she's having a terrible day and she describes a basset hound and she's like, the look on his face was always that he was just puzzled, but he was trying, you know? He's like, if you could all just come down here and slow down, I could do it. You know what I mean? I could make it. I'm like, that's what I feel like. You're doing everything you can. But like they literally don't even not care. They don't notice you. And it's like they don't care that you have pain. You're
It's
not
like,
a factor.
It's like falling on the ground at Disneyland. And you're tiny.
yeah.
And then everybody's just
And everyone
rushing
just
by and
kicks you
Mickey's
and
flipping
steps
you
on you.
off. Yeah,
Mickey's like,
exactly.
get fucked, idiot! Like,
Skill issue and just palms you in the forehead.
small aside, they closed It's Tough to Be a Bug Under the Tree of Life, which is
that's sad.
yeah, it's just it's a classic. It's a classic.
Miranda, does that make the Hork-Bajir adults in this? And they're kind
Yeah.
of adults in the sense of the
Not
Peanuts
every
cartoons.
metaphor is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
No, I think it
Okay.
does.
No, but-
I think it makes the Yeerks and the Yeerk forces the adults. I really do.
Yeah. Because remember how, isn't it Peanuts where you only see their legs? The legs of
Yeah,
adults?
yeah.
And
That's
their
how
legs are
Hork-Bajir
trombones.
talks, too.
That is
Their
true.
legs
That's
are
canonical.
trombones.
That's canonical.
Yeah.
I have to say, this book, it's like an I don't know what to call it. It's a new ick. That's what it is. That's the word. New ick. They were describing like the battalions of the enemy forces and how the Hork-Bajir were like shooting Draken beams from ships. And then there's a wave of Taxons. And somebody, I'm assuming Axe, I kind of forget at this point, but somebody described it as like thousands of questing Taxon mouths. Questing.
Yeah.
Questing.
They're not ravenous.
Knock it
They're
off with that.
questing.
Yeah.
They're
just true.
rebranding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a pro Taxon rebrand. They're questing.
Yes.
They're inquisitive.
Yeah.
They want to know. Can you show me?
Can you taste these people I see?
Yeah.
It is pretty gross that they just kind of come stampeding along just to eat the leftovers.
Yeah.
I think they'd eat with everyone else if they were just invited to the table, but instead
Yeah,
they're being
no,
tossed
I
to
know.
scraps on the
The
floor.
issue is chair technology, but that's a conversation for another time.
That's true. I don't know. They did fine on those. They did fine on the public transport. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, they
but you
thrive.
can stand on. Yeah, you can stand and hold one
Hold
of
up
those little
with
things.
one of you.
Yeah.
There's actually 1,000 little grips like they can hold with each hand.
They
Yeah,
need one
for
for
safety.
each little hand.
Yeah.
I like seeing the Andalites retreat. Does that
Yeah,
make me sick?
yeah.
I mean, it's just nice to see them lose one of their baseball matches for once, you know? Like,
Yeah.
They've lost literally every baseball match this series.
They don't act like
I do not
it,
know
though.
what you're
All
talking
right? They
about.
don't act like it. They need to be humble.
exactly.
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know when you had to do good game high fives at the end of your soccer match?
I
and then
remember.
They didn't
losing
high
team-
five anyone. One kid would always pull his
No.
hand away and you'd try to be like, that kid's not a team player. And they'd be like, eat your orange slices, Jimmy. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Back
yeah.
in that time when you were called Jimmy.
There are those kids that even when they
it was a
lose,
theoretical child.
there are those kids that even when they lose, they still smack your hand too hard, and you're like, "You lost! Why are you hitting me?" That kid was
Well,
Chris.
because
true.
they're angry that they lost.
Yeah. Chapter 19.
Chapter 19.
Yeah.
Did we accurately convey that they were flying as bats in a new death sport? That they were like zooming through the Leeran landscape as fast as they could? And
I think we
almost
talked
dying?
about that
it
a
was-
little bit last chapter.
Last
I think,
episode?
yes.
Okay, cool.
Well,
You know
last
what?
chapter.
It was exactly like that classic scene in Star Trek podcasting.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
Podcast,
that's
Star
what I
Trek
call
podcasting. Are you talking
No,
about pod racing?
Now that's
Now that's what I call
podcast.
pod
That's what I
racing.
call podcasting. All right, chapter
That's what
19.
I'm always saying.
Axe could not feel any lower. He turned on his own friends to side with Andalites, only to be betrayed by one of his own people. And then the Andalites failed to save the Leerans, just as they failed the Hork-Bashir. See what I'm talking about? They have a terrible track record. And now that the Yeerks would infest the Leerans, an army of psychic frogs, they would quickly reveal the Andalites' true identities, the only known bit of human resistance to the Yeerk invasion. So the Andalites would soon fall to the humans as well. I just originally thought that was, oh, and hey, where the fuck is Tobias?
Yeah,
seriously. More and more Yeerk ships descend to the Leeran's continent. Soon it would become an impregnable Yeerk stronghold. Cassie whispers to Axe that Jake is wondering what they should do next. Jake doesn't want to have to ask Axe again. Oh my god, this is the hardest thing to read on the planet.
Yeah.
But Axe doesn't know what to say, lost as he is in despair. Just tell me more about the Leerans then, Cassie whispered. Axe tells her that Leerans live primarily in the oceans. They used to only surface to lay their eggs on land, which sounds really important, but we're just going to gloss over that. But now,
keep going.
They do even that in their own underwater cities. Thank God we covered that.
Yeah.
So honestly, they don't really have much use for the continent anyway. It's kind of a junk continent.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Axe has an idea. It tells the others they must go down into the underwater cities. If he is right, there will already be Andalites there. Oh, cool. But he has one request of Prince Jake. If they're taken by the Yeerks, Jake must kill Axe because Axe believes he knows what is really happening at the moment. If he is right, the Andalites are about to score the greatest military victory in Andalite history. Score. But Axe's supposition that
Axe's suppository.
Yeah, but Axe's supposition that could lead to that must not reach the Yeerks at any cost.
Yeah, I can't even tell you guys because they could get to your brains.
It's true. Yeah. Yep.
I love that talking helped us solve our problems.
I know. And that's how you know that the kids have officially graduated from 8th grade to 9th grade. They must be in high school now.
They're talking more. They have to take speech class now.
That's
They
right.
have to do the terrible assignment they always make you do where you describe how to do something really simple, like make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then they're like, nope, too vague. I don't know how to make a sandwich.
Oh, Axe would be so much fun in that class. I wonder if he's had peanut butter yet.
Ooh, the mouthfeel alone would send him off for
and
days.
you have to, you know what? You could just put it on the floor and he could step in it and absorb the peanut butter.
He wouldn't taste it. He wouldn't taste it, though. He wouldn't taste it, so what's the point?
He wouldn't.
Yeah.
And he would gunk it up. It would gunk up his...
Yeah, it's like cholesterol for Andalites.
And you can do this on your own time.
Gunked up hooves.
I
love
this
to see.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say I love to see that we're making another death pact. I think that really shows us again that we've moved from 8th grade to 9th grade.
Yes. Yeah.
I also like this Mission Impossible vibe where it's like, burn Axe after reading. Like, don't let him. Yeah, like he's a secret message in and of himself.
I also will say, I feel like they conveyed, it was very short, the beginning of this chapter, but somehow they really conveyed to me that they had been like, after witnessing the Andalites' loss at the end of the last chapter, which we didn't dwell on too much. We were like, boo-hoo. But like, Tobias also disappeared, and Rachel is like losing her mind. And I have this sense that like everybody, for the most part, is very still. And then there's Rachel like alternating between like aggressive sobbing and then just like punching rocks.
Yeah.
And like Jake is standing somewhere with his hand on his chin. Marco's trying to like make jokes to Rachel, but it's just having the opposite effect. And then Cassie's going between all these groups to try to figure out how to like help the best she can. And I don't know, it was a very brief setup, but it really laid it out for me that they were just like so shell-shocked by what had just happened that they had to unmorph and just pause for a second to process it.
Yeah. Do you think that this tells us anything about how they would rank the others on MySpace? The way that they react.
You're always coming back to the MySpace top 5.
I know.
True. You're trying to make fetch happen.
I think it's important. Well, okay. I don't like that we have to wonder. Now, are they upset about... Rachel's upset about Tobias, right?
Yeah. And losing a fight in general, but mostly Tobias, I think. Yes.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the others, they could just be upset. They could be upset about the Andalites losing. They could be upset about watching a bunch of Andalites and Leerans get scorched.
That's a crazy assertion.
I think they're also upset about Tobias. Yeah, like
no, I'm not
saying
saying
they.
I'm saying I want to see them just upset about Tobias. I want to see.
You want to see that being the conversation that's happening, but as our little child soldiers, they know that they have to move forward. They have no idea what happened to Tobias. He might be dead. But they sort of told them that there could be a sort of rubber banding effect. They didn't really know what that meant, but they're trying to hope that maybe they can, or maybe the Yeerks took him captive. I don't know. They're trying to figure something out. But most importantly, they have to make sure none of the rest of them die.
Yes, yeah. Do we remember what it looked like when Tobias went to the Ellimist dimension and visited with him? Did he disappear?
We did not get a description. We did not get a description because it was from Tobias's perspective. So we actually have no idea.
Yeah, but often in the books, when the Ellimist involves himself, he usually pauses time.
That's
right.
Like back in book 7.
Do you think that someone should just say at some point when things start getting weird, Ellimist? And then everyone can go, no, this isn't like the other times.
Yeah, it's a little weird that they don't bring it up as a possibility yet. But Tobias...
it's like they're Mercury in retrograde.
Or Lupus.
It's like, it's Ellimist.
It's never Lupus. It's never actually Lupus. It always looks like
Ellimist.
Lupus, but it's never Lupus. But I think if Tobias was here, if Tobias hadn't been the first to go, he might have suggested Ellimist involvement. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little weird Cassie didn't, because I feel like Cassie was cottoning on to... I used cottoning on again. Cassie was cottoning on to, like...
It's good for continuity.
to his thing back in book 13. Like, she knew something weird was going on before anyone else did. So, like, if there was another person who was going to bring it up, I think it'd be Cassie. But I think she is realizing that they need Jake as a leader and Jake doesn't know what to do. So she's prioritizing figuring out how to help Jake right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, it's helpful. She's like, just tell me what you know about Leerans and I will do the thinking. Like,
yeah.
But actually, Axe does the thinking himself. He does. He figures it out.
Don't you think the moment we ended up in Z space that they should have been like, fuck you, Ellimist? Like, don't you think the moment they jump through there,
I don't know. No? They think they have an explanation for it. They're like, we got hit by a ship.
Yeah, I think that's why they get met with the scientists so quickly.
Yeah.
Is to rule that out. Because it's not really left to question at all. They just don't know why it happened.
Well, Axe has even said that a lot of Andalites don't necessarily believe that Ellimists exist. Mm-hmm. They probably don't. They probably have no idea that these kids have met an Ellimist.
Which is a conversation they should have with the scientists before they ricochet back to their
for sure.
Wait, you want me to go to every scientist and be like, have you considered God, though? Like, that's insane.
What about
burden of proof is elsewhere.
Powers beyond your comprehension? Have you considered that it might not be measurable or tangible?
All right, yeah. In that case, go ahead and cut my funding.
Yeah. I just say the taxons have their quest. They have their questing mouths, and this is my quest. So this is,
yeah.
Eddie's questing mouth is looking for an Ellimist.
Yeah.
Maybe
Or a
we'll
doctor
find him
to
in
tell
chapter
about
20.
the Ellimist.
Or a doctor to tell about the Ellimist, yeah.
Maybe we'll find an Ellimist in chapter 20. Who knows?
Who knows?
Miranda, you want to take
it's me.
One?
Oh, shit. Okay. Chapter 20. The gang travels all night as birds to reach the shore. They're planning for the descent down into the ocean to reach the Leeran underwater cities when all of a sudden, Rachel disappears, just like Tobias. They panic that someone is targeting them somewhere on the surface, and so they rush into the water. They'll morph into sharks. Axe is a tiger shark, and the other 3 is hammerheads. After all, the Yeerks thought that sharks would be unstoppable in these waters, didn't they? Maybe there are no predators that could challenge a shark morph. They morph into sharks and begin to swim.
Yeah, that's sort of assuming that the Yeerks ever do good research, but their plans seem to be at least more interesting than...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddie, you noted that you felt Rachel got a much bigger reaction to disappearing than Tobias did.
Yeah.
I
just saying that Tobias had to share, and Rachel doesn't have to share. She gets everyone's attention, and it just feels like so typical, you know? Yeah.
It's true. I can understand really that. She was mid-sentence
Yeah,
And-
I think that makes it a little bit more jarring. Because I think, like, as much as we talked about the theory of what's happening and what they'll eventually start deciding is happening, they really don't know here. There's actually just a chance that Tobias got killed, and they're just trying to, like,
And that
figure out
Rachel
what to
and
do
that Rachel
next.
just got killed too because they know that a Dracon beam can just vaporize a small creature.
But
shred
the
it.
mid-sentence thing is, it's like that's how you got disconnected last week, Ed.
I know.
You got shot by a Draken beam.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
But and the other thing is that they were in the middle of a battle last time, so I think it was easy to, although they were sad about it,
Yeah.
assume that he had been killed by
Right. In
crossfire.
this scene, they're just playing magic cards together. So
Yeah.
it's just so much weirder.
So they're like, is there some sort of orbital cannon targeting us?
Is it because I play Blue Eyes White Dragon? I'm gonna make
I
all
thought
the
you were
Magic
going to make an
players
actual
cringe.
blue deck reference, and then
No.
you went
Is it
there.
because I'm playing a control deck? I don't
Okay,
know.
that's fine.
And maybe
Because
this
you're
is,
playing a
we know
dredge
how
deck.
much Visser 3, is it Visser 3 who really wants to eat a barbecued Tobias? So maybe he's
I don't know if he really wants to. He said he enjoyed it in a possible future.
I don't get the impression he actually enjoys anything. It's like, it's like Jimmy Fallon. Does he actually feel?
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, how did he eat him? Do Andalites eat solid food? Did he
had to morph into something.
human
Morph.
to eat him?
Yeah.
Because he said it was delicious, and that feels like
Our theory of
Human
defeating him
things.
with a box of donuts is getting more and
we're
more
getting
likely
closer and
now.
closer every day.
Yeah.
also,
Grape soda and donuts. Like,
where is, like, I have to guess actually, Visser Chronicles is all about
I'm so
Visser
excited.
3 morphing human for the first time and just
To eat donuts.
eating.
eat
Yeah, I
donuts.
want to hear
Yeah.
how he feels about taste.
I want
Yeah.
to know if he fell in love as, what was his name? Trent?
With donuts?
Victor Trent? No, I want to know if he morphed Victor Trent, found someone, and fell in love. Victor Trent was his human morph's name on the TV show.
Fell in love with the baker.
Oh, good
Fell in love
memory,
with-
Miranda.
You know what I mean? Like, but like, I want the Victor Trent Chronicles based off.
Yeah, so do I.
He's like, because he's a powerful, in the show, they're like, he's a powerful businessman and all these things. And I'm like, I assume we're meant to infer that Visser 3 killed and is now morphing Victor Trent, or imprisoned
It's
and is now
unclear.
morphing Victor Trent, because like,
But the name recognition is so strong. The
yeah,
brand
because
is
like
so
he can't
strong.
have because he can only be Victor Trent for 2 hours, and I just don't believe
Right.
he could have built a company like
Well,
this.
could he have
2 hours
absorbed
at a
a
time.
bunch of people like Alfangor did and like Axe did with the Animorphs and then just made a... I mean, how did he end up with Victor Frank? What's his name? Victor Frank?
Victor Trent. Victor Trent.
Victor
Two
Trent.
first names, Victor Trent. But like that's the thing, is that I don't think he's been here long enough to have established, like, he had a fucking mansion. It was a whole thing. They
I
went
think,
in to
you
try
know-
to steal DNA for the Gleep biofilter, I think.
It's a
that
good-
episode was weird.
It's a good question why the show is okay with them, like, printing money and coming up with some, like, it's like there's
Yeah.
got to be some, like, black market where they made that wealth, but that isn't canonical to the books yet.
No.
Yeah, like, we don't have
Very
them
true. And
being
there was a lot
rich
of
on the
hand waving
planet.
in the TV show. They were like, this just makes more sense, and it's easier than having an Andalite morph and walk around.
Right, like, we want to show something impressive, not just this weird Andalite puppet all the time.
Yeah, so
God,
it's
that
easier to
puppet
do
was so
these
weird.
scenes with him as a human than it is with him as an
Making
Andalite.
me miss
So
the
no
show.
Ellimist in this chapter.
No, I missed here.
And yet we talked
should we
about
check-
it for so long.
Yeah, should we check in chapter 21? Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Let's just take a
Anybody
peek.
interested in chapter 21? Let's get
Yeah,
freaky.
I
Let's
want
get
to see
freaky
if
in
there's an
chapter 21.
Ellimist in chapter 21 here.
Okay.
Use that questing mouth to read us chapter 21.
Yeah.
I will.
Quest
Here I go.
away.
I'm embarking on my quest. Chapter 21. The Animorphs descend into a rich and vibrant coral reef populated by an extraordinary variety of creatures. Cassie wishes that Rachel, her dead friend, and Tobias, her other dead friend, could be here to see it. Then four Leerans approach the Animorphs riding atop water jets. They figure that the Leerans are just curious about these new life forms they're seeing, never having seen sharks. But then the Leerans begin firing spears at the Animorphs. Axe attempts to make contact with them, claiming that they are four Andalites in Morph, and therefore allies. But the Leerans say they are not their allies, revealing that they are in fact Leeran controllers. The spears of the Leerans do little damage to Earth sharks, however, and so the Animorphs quickly gain the upper hand. think it's true what they say about frogs, Marco asks. Think it's true that they taste like chicken? Never mind that Cassie is a vegetarian. The Animorphs are about to feast on psychic frogs.
Hell yeah, brother. I've never had frog.
True.
Oh, it's
Never
true?
had.
Have you had frog?
Oh, no. It's true. No, it's true. They're going to eat the shit out of these Leerans.
So, a
Yeah.
couple of things to note that we see. There are huge billowing creatures like white and yellow snails, triangular with biological propellers at each corner. I want to know.
We have another flesh bearing.
Yeah, I was like, I don't
situation.
know about, do we
Yeah.
need flesh bearings for this? I don't know. How do they spin? Is it like, are they attached by a filament and then it can
God,
twist
I am
back either
so
way?
disturbed at the idea of a flesh bearing.
Yeah,
Like,
I
this
have
just,
a lot of
really
questions.
upsets me.
I have a lot of questions. Now,
I love
fins
the
can also be called.
screwfish.
Oh, the
They,
screwfish?
They're talking about, there was like a fish description where they're like, and it's like a screw and it corkscrews
Yeah,
through
and
the
it
water.
just spins through. Yeah, I see that.
Was
Yeah,
cool.
it's great.
Yeah, I like it gave coral reef vibes. I will say, like, because they're trying to stay away from fish, they're leaning more on worms and
Yeah,
like,
a lot of
like,
worms, snakes,
a lot
snails.
of tubes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing that I actually want to be near. You know, I have that reflex where when I see a hose, I start crying. Like a garden hose. Don't be weird about it.
I also want to say I did not understand. I'm a little confused about the water jets. I thought that they were like riding natural currents or something, but these appear to be devices or vehicles almost, like
Yeah,
some sort
it's
of weird water
technology.
scooter.
Right,
Yeah.
invented by the Yerks, bizarrely. Right?
Yeah,
like
I'm
it's
like-
but it's for the Leerans. Like the Leerans are like native swimmers, and yet the Yerks were like, "Here, take this underwater.
Yeah, it's
Well, they
very
wanted them to
strange.
go faster.
Yes. Yeah.
Could you pick it up? Could you pick it up a little? Come on.
We know
Look
they
alive.
strap jets. What did they strap to the Hork-Bajir and
They strap jets to the Hork-Bajir and they strap rockets again later. It's a good
To their
trend.
feet.
I
You would
enjoy
think
it.
Wild.
Slugs would be comfortable with taking their time getting somewhere, and yet they just
Yeah.
Hope you would hope
they want to go
Yeah.
fast.
Although it's snails that are thought of as
Slugs are not fast.
Slugs are just snails without shells. They're the same thing.
That's like the original name for email to prove that it was faster was slug mail.
Yes, of course.
Because slugs are so, idiomatically quick. And in our culture, all of our Ferrari thought that his cars were so red and fast,
Yes.
he should put a picture of a slug
Yeah.
on the emblem for them.
And
right?
when you adjust the speed on a tractor, it has two illustrations
Right,
of
it's a
animals.
sheep.
Goes,
It's a sheep for quiet and a slug for fast.
Are sheep known to be quiet? Are sheep? I've known sheep to be very noisy in my life.
destroying my brain.
I really can't describe to you. I literally reached down into a memory of being at Bass Pro Shop or something as a
God.
child, or Home Depot, sitting on a tractor and looking at the pictures, and I saw a sheep and a slug just now in my mind's
Just
eye.
now in your mind. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's a turtle and a rabbit, right?
Probably, yeah. Oh, man.
It's that old story, the turtle and the slug.
I just want to quickly note, I feel like, once again, we've had this before, but K.A. likes describing not just nature on Earth, but I feel like these ecosystem descriptions. She likes describing, especially underwater. I feel like when the Ellimist was showing them pictures from his vacations. Look at it.
It was,
Look
it was
at it.
mostly coral reefs.
Yeah,
The
you're
ocean was
right.
the best. Yeah.
Yep.
The ocean is wild, man.
Such
you never know what
wonder.
you're going to find down there. Look at its
Such
wonder. Such
Look
wonder.
at it. So beautiful.
You really do never know what you're going to find down there.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases, though, where they were like, hey, why don't we talk to these guys? This will probably go better if we don't just start fighting. And then they got their asses speared. It is such
It's
a
true.
D&D scenario.
Yes.
Where,
Yeah.
I walk in and I'm like, hey, highwaymen. And they're like, we're the highwaymen. Pay up. We're here to kill you right
You fail a perception check to notice that they're hostile.
Hey, guys, what's up?
And you're like, oh no, I'm an adventurer. You wouldn't want to rob me. And they're like, you're
Hey.
exactly who we want to rob.
I'm a real tough customer. Hey, stop stabbing me. That hurts, don't you know?
Luckily, the denticles of the shark, the teeth scales that they have, stop them from being stabbed by any of these spears, which are supposedly lethal to like everything. But they're hollow and small, and they just don't pierce. And so they're fine.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Do you know how, like, if sharks are religious, they know how to do their crosses? It's Benticles, Denticles, Wallet Watch. And I'm out. All right, let's...
Chapter 22. Oh, you have to come back, Chris. Come back.
Oh, sorry. I left. It's over for me. The Animorphs attacked the now panicked Leeran controllers, but one of the infested Leerans managed to take advantage of its terrified and distracted Yerk. Sending a psychic message to Axe, the Leerans can regenerate body parts. If the Animorphs destroy the rear part of the brain, it would free the Leerans from Yerk control.
Hell yeah.
And so the Animorphs do exactly this, freeing all 4 Leerans from their Yerks.
Short for ripping the backs of their heads off.
Yeah, like that's a pretty big gloss there.
It'll grow back.
It'll grow back. It's just a flesh wound.
It will.
The Animorphs begin to explain their plan of reaching the Leeran underwater cities in order to regroup with the Andalite army, but the Leerans quickly tell them to shut the fuck up because they've already read their minds. Even their secret identities as Animorphs are known to the Leerans at this point. The Animorphs realize just how careful they will need to be during their journey to what they learn is called the City of Worms. Hot. The Leerans reveal that there are countless more Leeran controllers on the patrol. We haven't bothered to count them.
They're uncountable.
They're uncountable. I can't count them. The best way for the Animorphs to travel safely, the freed Leerans say, is for them to morph into Leerans themselves. The freed Leerans already know that the kids don't like to morph sentient creatures, which is why they are prepared to give their complete consent. The Leerans are happy to help. Unlike the Andalites and Yerks, the Leerans enthusiastically believe in the joining of different races, humans, Leerans, and Andalites working together as allies. Each with their strengths and weaknesses, they're stronger together. Marco, of all people, surprisingly agrees with this without a hint of irony. Free people who get together to defend freedom are never weak,
Hell yeah.
says. As Axe, Marco, Cassie, and Jake morph into Leerans, there's so much of their inner lives are suddenly exposed to each other. Quote from Axe, "It was a new sense that was stunning. The psychic sense. It wasn't that I could read every thought in the heads of Prince Jake, Cassie, and Marco, but I could feel enough of their secrets to be embarrassed for them, and of course for myself, because of my own secrets. My vain little ideas, my pretensions, were all open to them as well." I could see so clearly that Marco was hoping for some news of his mother, Visser 1. He wondered if she was here on Lyra, if she had survived our last encounter. I could see and feel Prince Jake's crushing weight of responsibility, the way he kept running things through in his mind over and over again, trying to figure out what had happened to Tobias and Rachel, desperate to find a way to protect the rest of us. And I could feel Cassie's mind as she cried for Rachel and Tobias, as she wondered whether we were doing the right thing, as she dealt with the after effects of the violence we just endured. The Animorphs are already embarrassed by back to Eddie tense. The Animorphs are already embarrassed by this exposure to each other's private thoughts, feelings, and secrets, but they realize they can turn off the psychic part of the Leeran brain. And so they do that. Back to Axe. Then, one by one, I felt their minds close to me, and I closed my own. It seemed suddenly very lonely as we grabbed the water jets and rode away, as we got on our cool-ass jet skis and rode away through the brilliantly
like
alive seas. Suddenly very lonely. Jeff Probst is so lonely on those jet skis.
Holding the votes.
But I guess each species feels the most comfortable when they are just themselves. And for Andalites and humans, secrets and lies and loneliness and privacy are natural. It's only natural.
It's only natural. Do you remember that really, really old Daniel Tosh bit from like his 30-minute Comedy Central Presents? It's like, you can't be sad on a jet ski. Try frowning on a jet ski.
I do remember that bit.
It just strikes me reading this now, or listening to Chris read this, how seriously K.A. Applegate takes kids to write this as, like how much respect she has for them as readers. To write this kind of thing about privacy, which is totally unnecessary for the scene and the book, but it's so good. Like it ends up being so important to it, but she didn't have to go here with it.
No, she didn't. And it feels really It feels like it's part of the statement on it, though, right? About Axe's overall loneliness in this book and letting new people in, and maybe people that aren't, quote unquote, your kind and all that. And
who you let in. Yeah.
And who you let in. And then he also ultimately defaults to the, like, listen, for our two races, and like he says, the secrets and lies and loneliness of privacy. And so it's like to saddle privacy in its nature to have secrets and lies, which we know privacy means to have secrets, and we know privacy can mean being lonely, but to say that it's like calling out lies of omission, right? Other people are not entitled to everything about you. They don't need to know everything. They don't have a right to know, and you are entitled to keep those things secret. But there are things that you are lying about by not telling people.
Yeah, even as simple as when someone says, "How are you feeling?" and you're depressed, and you're like, "I'm fine,"
and you just lie. Yeah, because it makes your day easier, because it makes everyone's day easier. And so, like, I don't know, privacy is always touted as such a good thing, and I don't think she's saying it's a bad thing here. But I do think it's interesting to say privacy, by its nature, can make you lonelier, and Axe is realizing that not just the humans, but the Andalites are guilty of this, and that the privacy of not sharing how you feel about things, I mean, I'm stretching a little bit here, but it's part of what leads to things like Samalen's turning on them. Mm-hmm. Like, if they'd been psychic like the Leerans, they'd have all known that he felt like it was bad or something, and they'd all have known. And I think the book, like, I think it comes away saying it's good that you can keep your feelings private and personal, but I think it's also like interesting that it's saying that there are not only upsides to keeping your thoughts and feelings personal.
Yeah, which is what's something that's really special about these books, is that they can hold both of those things, that they can hold the complexity of privacy. And what a big thing to tell teenagers who kind of more than anyone else need privacy, but it comes with its own complications, you know? Like,
it's true.
It's such an important developmental thing to have.
They need the privacy, but they also need to know that sharing can be a benefit. Like that like finding...
just say it. Sharing can be caring.
No, I was going to say finding a trusted adult and telling them your problems can not solve a lot of your problems, but can open up solutions that you didn't immediately see. And so while you're entitled to keep those things private, I feel like it's encouraging you to share when you're uncomfortable and things with the people you trust. Not always adults, but just someone. You know what I mean? I wondered
why you jumped to adults.
Yeah, I jumped to trusted adult because I'm like, it's like an ingrained phrase from like working with children is like, go to a trusted adult.
Go to a trusted adult, children. Yeah. I enjoyed it as a thought experiment about like just what would happen if like Axe could get that perspective, especially because he misses out on so much idiomatically because he isn't a human. So like his ability to read his cohort, who he was feeling estranged about in the previous section when he had to choose between Andalites and humans, like some of the things that would make Andalites feel so familiar and make that pull so strong would be that he's not out of place interacting with Andalites. Whereas like when he's dealing with humans, he's constantly having to translate everything, which can be exhausting. So getting this little bird's eye view of what's going on for his friends seems like a gift to give Axe, who definitely can't pick those up through the normal means of sort of like clocking what people really mean and doublespeak and code switching.
It's just also, we hear so much from Axe about how different the humans and Andalites are, but this is something that kind of seems like it's the same for them. Like,
they share.
It's as human as it is Andalite to want these things and to need these things. So
yeah, I was just thinking about like seeing that Jake was hiding how being the leader made him feel. I'm hoping is going to have a big effect on especially Marco, because Marco is the one who's like always giving shit to Jake about like, where's Mr. Leader? Where's the big idea? Like, what are we doing? And like, I don't think he realized how much Jake does actively think about that. And so I'm hoping that for those who were here, we can maybe get a little
empathy.
patience. Yeah, a little more empathy, a little more patience, a little more softness in how we treat certain topics for certain people. That's all I'm saying. There's a line early on in that I just want to circle back to hit real quick. When they're attacking the Leerans, because it's like, this all is the big thing that happens in this chapter, it feels like, is that we get this intense moment where they're like, here at the surface, human, Andalite, and Leeran join forces and we'll be powerful and strong, and it's very beautiful. And they're like, oh, we love that you respect consent, and we give consent, and like all these things. But Axe says when they're fighting, because way back before they get to be friends with the Leerans, they have to rip the Yeerks out of their brains. It says Andalites understand about tail fighting, but there is something very intimate and intimately violent about attacking with a mouth. You have to get very close. You smell and feel and touch your enemy. And I was just like really struck by that line.
That section where they're ripping off the backs of the heads is extremely gory.
Yeah.
And extremely messed up.
And I was
liberating.
like really, but liberating. I was really struck because it makes me think of like, I mean, I listen to and watch true crime stuff, which like, you know, there's blah, 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 lots of stuff about that and whether or not it's good for anybody. But they talk about certain types, certain things that can indicate that a crime was more intimate or like that they might have known each other and things like that. Because you have to get up close and personal to commit it. And so it indicates things about the mindset of the person who committed the crime, possibly. And something about the idea of using your face as your primary weapon is just
Horrifying.
like,
Super dark.
horrifying. I can't imagine. This line really struck me, and I was not surprised to see it in these books, but I was impressed by it, I guess. Impressed isn't the right word, but
there was a lot of thought put into what it meant to be attacking in the way that they were.
The fact that he's thinking about it at all, and the fact that the author was like, maybe the kids will be thinking about this, so I want to mention that the characters are thinking about it too.
Yeah.
So, all the way back in book 15 or whatever, when we met the Leerans, 16 maybe?
I think it was 15, because Marco's 5s.
K.A. Applegate, freak that she is, was like, I can so not wait in a couple books, like three books, for these kids to be mouth ripping
Their heads off with their mouths.
And it's like a good thing. I'm going to blow these kids' minds.
He was imagining our listener, Stephanie, and
That's right.
child Stephanie would want.
Because what we established at the beginning of this book, that K.A. Applegate has gone back in time and altered the series in line with our
It's crazy
reading.
to watch it happen. Is that real time? If they're changing it? It's crazy to watch history be rewritten. So
I wonder what these books were before we read them.
Does it burst when you bite down on it? Like, what happens?
Hold on. Everybody check your copy of the books. It might have changed.
It also like changed my thinking in how Yeerks work, that the Yeerks were located in a portion of their brain. So I guess in the same way that the head can be too small, maybe the brain can be too big. Like maybe if the brain is too multifaceted and multi-part, they like lock on to a specific part of it. I don't know. It just got me thinking. I was like, in a human, you'd have to rip out the whole brain.
I don't know. That sounds like dangerous thinking, Miranda. You might want to try this whole Yeerk thing I've been on.
Oh my God, I'd be so relaxed.
Once you get it in there, it just really calms you down.
Can you feel it at all, Chris? Does it feel any different? Is it just...
It hurts. It hurts. But the Yeerk controls that part.
So I love this chapter. I love this book. I gotta say, when I found out we were going to hear the secrets of the other Animorphs, I thought we were going to get something new. I thought we were going to get some juicy stuff. I thought Axe would pop into Jake's mind and maybe there was just a really weird song playing like the whole time. Or that we might learn, I want to know what
it's like the Welcome Back Cotter theme song. Welcome back.
I thought maybe we'd get like Dark Cassie when we went into her brain, or just like Shame or something. And I think a real missed opportunity, and I think this would have happened now. I think if they were writing these books now, this would be the moment when Axe is like, why is Marco imagining our mouths touching? And I think we would have had something like that. Like, I think it would have been his first. I think it would have kicked off the whole fanfic here.
Oh, man.
Who do you want to read in this scene? I see you.
Oh, you want to do it? Okay.
Who do you want to read?
I'll do Marco.
Okay, I'll do Axe then.
Okay.
Wait, what is this? What's the context on this scene?
This is them in the water. I think this is them in the water. Mm-hmm. So it's like the exact moment that they gain psychic powers.
A mind-meld,
okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Marco?
Yes, X?
I'm not drowning. You do not need to save me.
Marco blushes.
What are you talking about?
I can see your thoughts. You are imagining aggressively breathing air into my lungs, or perhaps I am saving you? I'm confused by this vision.
We need to demorph, like, right now.
Now I understand. We seem to be using our tongues to clear each other's airways.
Gross. You're so gross, Eddie.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!